Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you who celebrate. My name is Niraj Periwal. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at eFolder and your host for today's webinar event. Welcome to the eFolder Partner Chat. This webinar series brings together leading eFolder partners for business-oriented discussions. Today we're going to talk about how to get clients to ditch backup tapes and old backup technology in favor of more modern backup solutions. Today we're joined by one of our Pacific Northwest partners, Farrell Lusher from Stepfar Technology Group. Now before I go into today's agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar, along with the slides, will be made available to everyone attending. Now with over 95 people registered for today's session, we put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it over your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Your questions are strongly encouraged throughout today's session. We plan a special Q&A at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit your questions as we go along, and we'll try to address them on the fly. So now let's go into today's agenda. We're going to start out by first introducing our partner, Farrell Lusher, and his company, Stepfar Technology Group, and kind of learn what makes them unique as an MSP. We're then going to dive into a discussion of why backup tapes and other older types of backup technology are, for the most part, obsolete, and why business continuity solutions have really replaced them as the backup solution of choice. We're then going to dive into a few client case studies from Farrell to learn how he successfully moved his clients away from tape backups and toward a business continuity solution. We're then going to introduce one of our own BDR solutions, which we call eFolder BDR for Replimit, and that's the one that Stepfar Technology Group has taken and really leveraged for their client base. We're then going to talk a little bit about how you can convince your clients to adopt a business continuity solution, and then follow up with some questions and discussion. So Farrell, why don't you go ahead and kind of talk about yourself and your company.
Okay. Hello, my name is Farrell, and I've been in consulting for about 20 years. We, about 5 years ago, started Stepfar Technology Group, and previously I was at a consulting company called TSC, or Technology Services Company, and before that I was with AirTouch Paging. We're a small IT company in Seattle, and been doing managed services for probably about the last 8 years. We have 50 or so clients and about 600 end users served. And kind of going on talking about the backups, as I was telling Niraj, when we first started, when I first got into consulting, I used to love tape backups. I mean, they were simple, easy to set up. We always had our backups start at 11 o'clock at night, and in the morning the next day the office manager would come in and take out the tape, swap it out, and they put that tape in the car, and that was their offsite backup. They were profitable. We added anywhere between $3,500 and $4,000 to the cost of the server, and they were reliable at first. When the office manager came in the morning and the tape hadn't popped out, that was telling us the backup was still going. So then we had to set the backups further and further behind. Or sometimes you get the call where it said, hey, I put the tape in the morning, but it popped out again, when I went by the server at noon. And then that was telling us that the backups were now taking more than one tape. Because of this, I started to love tape backups less and less. I kept on hoping that when the new tape drives would come out, that this would resolve the problems, but all our clients would seem to outgrow them within a couple of years. But what really killed my love for tape backups was when I finally realized, and this is around the same time we started moving from a break-fix company into managed services, it ain't about the backups. It's all about the restores. how fast can I restore after a disaster, and how much can I restore since the last backup? And and that's RTO, recovery time objective, and RPO, recovery point objective. With tapes, we were only backing up once a day. With BDRs, we're backing up once an hour. With tapes, if we did a bare metal restore, that could take us a couple days to get back up. With the VDR, it was a couple hours. But the thing that really got to me with the VDRs is when we had tapes that were with the client that had a tape backup, when we had an issue with the server going down, disaster happening, we would spend a long time trying to figure out what was wrong and trying to get it going. We could spend 3, 4, 6, 7 hours because we knew that the tape would take us a long time to restore, and we might not, since the capacity of the tape, we might not be backing up everything. With the BDR, we set a 2-hour time limit on how long before we decide to switch. And while we're working on the problem, we're also spinning up the BDR and getting it ready just for that when we want to make that decision to switch across. Oh, and one other thing for the record is, I think USB external hard drives are worse than tape backups. Because in my experience, they've been less reliable. Single point of failure. We've gone into clients that have had a single USB hard drive that they've been backing up to, and there hasn't been a good backup on it in 2-3 months, and because there's nothing telling them if there's a problem.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Farrell. That tape backups and backups on the USB, they do have their place. I mean, they're not completely irrelevant when you talk about tape. You especially think of it as useful for archival purposes, for data that you just need to retain, but you're probably not going to need to access regularly. But when it comes to real business continuity, there's really nothing like BDR. So, we put together a little kind of comparison chart here to kind of talk about the differences between using backup tapes or other kind of, old-fashioned backup technology versus modern business continuity solutions like BDR. So let's kind of go through these factors one by one. In terms of downtime, backup tapes, if you end up going down and you have to recover, you can experience downtime of days or rarely even weeks. Whereas backup time, if you're using a BDR solution, it's just hours or maybe even minutes. If you could really quickly recover from the BDR appliance, or even if you have to kind of provision a node in a continuity cloud, it could only take a few hours, which is significant cost savings for many of your SMB clients. Kind of the next factor to consider. Yeah, go ahead.
Just something I wanted to add on there, and that was where this made a real big difference is back in the old days when we were a break-fix client, if they had a crash, we would spend hours there, and it was all billable. Of course, we did the best we could for the client to get up as fast as we can. But when we moved to managed services, the more resources I had to have at a client trying to get them up, that was lost revenue to me. If I had had an engineer there for over 12 hours, 14 hours, 18 hours, and especially if the engineer is spending the night trying to get them back up because they're tape, that might be covered, and then I'm spending all this resources on our engineer and not really getting any revenue from it. So that was a big deal about the downtime on the business side of things, on our business side of things.
Right. Great point. Yeah, it's not only painful for your clients, but also for you as an MSP. It can be really annoying to have to deal with tapes. As
not to mention, you could lose a client if they're down for 3 days.
Yeah, that's another big problem. So, the next factor, when you think about level of risk with backup tapes, there's a lot of human error that could occur. Somebody might forget to change a backup tape, and, they put it off, and soon enough, you've got backups that are days or weeks old. or you could, just, like Phil mentioned, if the offsite version of backup is putting the tapes in your car, that's really kind of a disaster-prone scenario. Whereas, of course, with BDR, it's a pretty low level of risk because you've got a fully automated process. So once, you initiate the backups and you make sure they're working right, and they kind of just work by themselves every hour without you having to intervene manually. In terms of speed comparison, pretty simple here. Backup tapes can be rather slow. BDR is usually really fast. Just backs up every hour. When you're talking about offsite backups, with backup tapes, it can be really labor intensive and costly to send tape backups offsite. Sometimes, with things like USB, if you're using like a USB device to backup, it can be really hard to do offsite backups. Of course, with BDR, you've got cloud backup kind of natively built in for an extra layer of protection. So even if there's some kind of site-wide disaster, like a tornado ripping through the Midwest, or earthquake hitting California, you're fine because you can just restore directly from the cloud. And finally, in terms of encryption, a very hot topic nowadays, especially in recent weeks. With backup tapes, you've got pretty limited options for encrypting your data. Of course, with Business Continuity modern BDR solutions, you've got encryption with partner or user-owned encryption keys. So I think it's pretty obvious from this table that for pretty much all purposes for most SMBs, business continuity is really the modern backup solution that you want to consider. So let's, yeah, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, Niraj, I mean, kind of along those lines, we had a customer in an area near a river and a dam. There was a problem with the dam, and so they warned everybody, in this, and it's a suburb of Seattle, that they could have flooding in this, in all the little the suburbs that are along this river. And so we had this one customer. They were paying Iron Mountain to take off their backups, their tape backups off site every week, and the cost of the Iron Mountain was 20% more than offsite with the BDR and all the BDR software and all our costs and stuff in there. So it was like, yeah, really a big difference in pricing for offsite.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you can introduce a BDR solution to your clients and actually tell them you can save money versus the alternative, and enjoy all the benefits of it. So let's go ahead and dive into a few case studies from StepFar. So first off, we've got a membership organization. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about this client? Phil? I'm wondering if we lost Farrell. Let's see. Looks like we may have lost him. Hopefully he dials back in. But I fortunately do have some notes, so let me go through what Farrell already told me about this membership organization. Let's see if I can find for my notes here. So Farrell told me, this was a real classic kind of case where, Farrell, are you back here? All right, we'll wait for him to come back. But it's a really classic case where they were using tape backups, and everything was kind of going hunky-dory until they had something go out on their SCSI controller card, and StepFar Technologies kind of found themselves struggling, where they were spending several hours trying to get the RAID built without losing any data. And they knew the backups were taking 12 to 16 hours, so they were trying not to have to do a restore from the tape. After around 6 to 7 hours, Sapphire Technologies made the decision that they simply couldn't repair, they couldn't get the RAID to come back. So they had to do kind of an all-nighter to recover everything from the tape. And in total, the membership organization was down for about 2.5 days. I think from what Farrell told me, at that point it was pretty simple for them. They knew they needed to adopt a more modern backup solution, so they adopted BDR. And they knew that in the future, if any kind of hardware failure occurred, all they had to do was switch over to the BDR and keep running their business as usual while they recovered data from the BDR back onto their server. So I think the big takeaway here was that the client realized that you shouldn't just waste time to make a decision. Just spin up a BDR and everything will be good. So, Phil, are you there?
I don't know. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Oh, I can. I can hear you. Yeah, good.
Okay.
I was kind of telling the story of this client. I think you went off for a minute or two.
Yeah, the membership organization. I think you said, but it was definitely interesting. Where, yeah, the server went down because of a raid. Had our engineer out there, and because of the time we knew how long it would take to do a backup, did everything we could. Dealt with it was Dell worked with the RAID controller people, and then finally decided it was not. And then we had our engineer basically start restoring from the tape, and spent the entire night. Next morning, I relieved her like at 6 a.m. and finished the restore. Then she came back in, and then they were down for basically 2.5 days.
Wow. Yeah,
and
so definitely,
after
yeah.
Yeah, and after that happened, I brought in, the BDR we were using at the time, and she, oh yeah, let's go for it. So they went for it right away.
Now, were there any kind of cost considerations where they were like, it sounds like a good idea, but not sure if I want to pay that much, or were they pretty much on board with the idea?
At first, when we were speaking to them, they were still only, in the mindset of a backup is a backup is a backup. And even though we were telling them what could happen if the server crashes and the downtime, they really weren't thinking about that until it actually happened to them. And when they were down, because they went down like at noon or one, in the afternoon of that first day, they thought, okay, we can handle this being down for a day. But then they were down for another day, and then didn't get back up until the third day. There's only so much filing your people can do when they're not working on their computers. And then that really hit home for them, of the labor that they lost. And they're a membership organization, and they weren't able to service their clients, their members,
right,
as efficiently during that time period.
Yeah, 2.5 days of downtime is an awful long time.
Yeah, so when we first brought it to them, they just they only saw it as an additional cost, because hey, we already paid for a backup system. Why should we pay for another one? But then they realized that it's more of an insurance policy.
Right. Yeah, I think you probably did a great job of kind of convincing them why they should, move to BDR, and you convince them of the value and the benefits that it can provide them. So.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So let's hear about the next client here. We've got a law firm. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
This one, I know it's not good to, it makes me laugh even though it's not a laughable situation. But we used to call Microsoft for tech support on certain issues. Back in the day, it was always a lot of times they start off the call, the Microsoft person saying, hey, how good's your backups? And so we had this law firm, they had their own IT guy. No, they're a small one. And so we get out there, and they had a problem with the server and it was down. So it was, okay, so I go to them, how good's your backups? And they say, hey, look, good. Here we have 5 tapes, labeled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I go, okay. So I go in to start recovering the tapes, and then noticing all the tapes are incrementals. So I go back to the next day, and then go to all the tapes. I go, well, where's the tape that has the full backup and you're doing incrementals off of? And got this blank stare. And what happened is they overwrote their backup tapes. So all they had was incrementals, and so the backups weren't good at all. And I just like, oh, wow. And so they lost about a year and a half to 2 years worth of work because of basically, not doing their backups, and then not doing, and they weren't a managed client. They called us up when they had this issue, and we did not set up their backup system. But they thought, hey, backups are simple. It's done. We put in the tape. We take it out. But they didn't do any testing or anything throughout that time, and they still had their previous server that had the data, and were able to go back a year and a half to get that. But they lost about a year and a half worth of data. Which was
and were you eventually able to turn them into a full-time managed services client?
They did come on as a more proper client, but we did not turn them into a managed services. They stuck to be a break fix, but they never had a problem with their restoring any files from then on out.
Okay, cool. And just so that the audience knows, how does Sapphire Technology Group, how are you structured? Are you mostly break fix or mostly managed services with a little bit of break fix, or what?
We are now 80%, I guess, or so of our revenues coming in from managed services clients.
Cool.
And then we still have a few that we're just going to get over onto managed services. And so they're break fix. And then we have some that are, we help out, smaller clients that we work with that wouldn't really qualify for our managed services. When we started working with partners and who have similar customers to us, but they're not IT people, cabling companies or accounting firms. And whenever they ask us or give us a lead, we always take it, no matter how small the client is, just so we can keep on getting leads from them. And then some of those don't turn into managed services. They just, they're all break fix.
Okay, cool. Great. And then you have one more case study to share with us, a magazine publisher. Could you tell us a little bit about this client?
Yeah. So they had one of the people on, which was a member or a family member of the owner that worked at the company, but also was their in-house IT person. And they were also break fix, and they were backing up. And what happened was they had a raid, and they're having problems with logging in. And so they had a problem with the server, with the RAID, and the guy thought, hey, here's an option, I can initialize the RAID. So he did that and wiped out the entire RAID drive. And that was different than our other ones, because that one we didn't have to worry about taking too much time and trying to fix it. They wiped it out and it was gone. And so then we had to restore from their tape backups, and they were down for about a day and a half, I would say. They went down, and then we got them back up the next day past the afternoon. But they had deadlines, they had advertisers that they had to get stuff out on, and they didn't lose too much data since they had a backup the night before, and they had that one of those perfect things where they backed up the night before and the server went down before people started work the next day, so the backup was the most current. but they were still down for a day and a half. And if they had a BDR, that would have been easy. Switch on, turn on the BDR, then the people would be working, and deadlines would have been met, and the advertisers would have been happy.
Right.
But
cool.
This is one of those things where it was, it's not always a disaster. It's not always tape failure. It could always, also be human error where the person thinks they're doing something good and ends up wiping out their entire server.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for sharing those case studies, Farrell. So, I kind of wanted to talk about how do you, the longer title of this slide, which I wish I could fit in the title area, is how to convince clients to adopt a business continuity solution. So what kind of points should you mention in order for them to, realize the value of moving beyond more rudimentary backup solutions like tape, like USB drives, and why they should adopt a real BDR solution? So number one is, it helps to maintain employee productivity whenever there's any kind of downtime. So, it can be an everyday disruption like a power outage or a server failure, or a more extreme disaster like an earthquake or flood. So businesses that experience this, they can't conduct business as usual. And because of that, they lose money. So you should really emphasize that a business continuity solution can ensure that whenever any kind of incident occurs, they can quickly get back up on their feet and quick check it along, and they won't lose any money due to a really extended period of downtime. So number two is it's really important for a company's reputation with customers and partners to not go down. So, the longer term repercussions of downtime can really be disastrous. So it's really important that when you deploy business continuity to your clients, you do talk about how it can really help out their reputation with their customers and with their partners. A third point why business continuity is so valuable to clients is because, the business environment, no matter what kind of industry you're in, is probably really cutthroat. And you want to do everything you can to avoid losing clients and companies to the competition. And one way to do that is to just really ensure that you're always up and running and, everything goes off without a hitch. It's so easy nowadays for customers to go on Yelp or Google Places and complain about your company. So it's really important for you to, when you go to your clients, say, this can really help save your reputation. It can prevent you from losing clients to the competition. And finally, a lot of clients operate in very regulated and sensitive verticals. So it might be the medical vertical, it might be the financial vertical, whatever it is, you need to be able to ensure that they're always compliant with things like HIPAA and SOX and COLIBA. And a business continuity solution can ensure that clients don't have to worry about compliance violations, and they can really focus on generating revenue and keeping their customers happy. So those are kind of four things that we believe it's really important to tell your clients in order to get them to adopt a BDR solution. And kind of moving on to, why are we talking about this? Why do we as eFolder think of BDR as so critical? Well, we know that SMB needs are rapidly evolving, and so are the IT services that MSPs offer. So what we've done is we've partnered for BDR with 5 different vendors in the industry. We've partnered with Acronis, Aperture, Dell, Replimit, Veeam, and StorageCraft to integrate their BDR, their image-based backup solutions with our cloud. And so we've built out 5 different BDR solutions that are end-to-end and that we really believe serve partners and their clients in the best way possible. So the BDR solution that Ferrell and Sapphire Technology Solutions have chosen to adopt is what we call eFolder BDR for Replicate, which is an end-to-end backup and disaster recovery solution that bundles the Replicate backup software with the massive cloud recovery and storage capabilities of eFolder Cloud. So I want to talk a little bit about how eFolder BDR for Replicate works. So here we've got a server upon which the Replicate agent is installed. And on-site, you've got a backup and virtualization BDR appliance. And what the BDR appliance does is it takes regularly scheduled image-based backups of the server and stores them on the BDR, and it also sends them to the Replicate vault in the eFolder storage cloud. Now, everything that is backed up to the cloud can be managed in the global management portal. And what we do is, in the event of some kind of site-wide disaster, we can provision a node in the eFolder Continuity Cloud so that if you need to recover, do virtualization of all of your client's data, you can easily just provision a node and then do in-the-cloud virtualization and recovery. So if you don't have time to do complete download or disk shipment of your data within a few hours, you can have a server entirely provisioned and working in the cloud, and you can just virtualize it down really quickly. So what are some key features of eFolder BDR for Replicate? For one, it offers chain-free backup technology, so there are no dependent chains when you back up, unlike many other BDR services out there. So, there's no base image or dependent chains to corrupt, no redundant copies of data. You only back up, what you need. There's no need to ever reseed the data center, again, because there's no dependent chains here. It's all chain-free. And no incremental forever, reverse incremental, or any incremental files. Another feature of eFolder BDR for Replicate is automated testing and screenshot verifications. So it's got daily screenshot of booted VM capabilities. So every single day, it tests like the VM can boot, and it sends you an email or a ConnectWise alert to let you know that, hey, the VM is moving up correctly, or, it looks like there's an issue, so let's automatically log a ticket in ConnectWise so you can investigate what might be going on. The third feature of eFolder BDR for Replicate is really extensive data verification checks. Every incremental is verified, and we make sure that no corrupted data is written to the disk. That's kind of the last thing you would want. But, it should be noted that because eFolder BDR for Replicate is chain-free, theoretically, even if any corrupt data were written to the disk, because you're not dependent on a backup chain, that shouldn't affect the most recent backup. Incrementals are injected into a virtual hard drive. Again, you've got a nightly boot VM check and full block level reconciliation in minutes. There's no need for a RAID controller. And there are many tests, and I'm not going to read through the whole list here, but many data verification checks to make sure that the data that you're backing up is completely corruption-free and is 100% reliable. Another cool feature of Replicate is the really deep ConnectWise integration. So, whenever there's any kind of issues or any kind of alerts, they can pop up in your ConnectWise instance. Anything from backup status, storage, utilization, replication status. Again, that screenshot verification of booted machines. It can be logged right in ConnectWise. And you can generate tickets to the service board of your choice. Replicate is hardware agnostic and OS independent. It runs on a Linux and Ubuntu hardened kernel that can run on pretty much any kind of server appliance, and there's no need for expensive Windows OS components. There's no reboot required after the agent is installed on the server, and patching and updates happen automatically. So really very little maintenance for you as an MSP to have to worry about. Now, when it comes to a complete BDR solution, we want to make sure to not only leverage the latest and greatest image-based backup solution, but pair it with really capable and powerful cloud solutions. So with every eFolder BDR for Replimit server that's backed up to the cloud, we include 2 terabytes of cloud storage. When you compare that to kind of the average cloud storage utilization in the eFolder cloud of 250 gigabytes, we really give you room to grow. We know that today you may not be using even more than a fraction of the total cloud storage, but we want to make sure that 5 years from now, when your client's data really grows, you're still able to back all of it out up to the eFolder cloud for one low price. Speaking of prices, here is the pricing that we offer for eFolder BDR for Replimit. So you'll see that as the minimum commitment of servers goes up, the monthly price per server actually goes down to as low as $45 per server if you've got 100 to 249 servers. Anything above 250 and up, call us and we'll be able to give you special pricing. Now, we mentioned earlier the importance of communicating the value of BDR to your clients, and one really key way of doing that is by leveraging the marketing and selling tools that we offer you. We've got something that we call the eFolder Business Continuity Playbook, which we've stuffed with a ton of marketing and selling tools, like pre-written white papers, pre-written blogs, an ebook that we've made and we've illustrated, and it's really graphically rich, a video that you can rebrand, a brochure that you can rebrand, and a lot more. And everything in here, all the marketing and selling tools in the playbook are completely customizable. So we encourage all our partners to download the playbook and then put their own name on it, put their own logo and their own twist on everything, so that you can really make it feel to your clients like you've written this content and you prepared it just for them. So that is kind of everything that we wanted to talk about today. Pharaoh, do you have anything to add before we go into questions?
Maybe a little. Just
Sure.
kind of went over most of it, but for us, we were doing Shadow Protect previously before we moved to Replimit, but then the 3 things that really made us decide to go to Replimit, the first one was with Shadow Protect, you still have the option of backing up to a USB hard drive and then taking that to the cloud. And so you didn't really have the BDR. With Replimit, it forced you to have a BDR, which give to our salespeople where they didn't even have that option anymore. Now it's just BDR and nothing else. Also, with what you said with Replimit, the other thing that made the decision helped out was not having to buy a Windows server. We could use the Linux that came with it and our own hardware to build up the servers in the way we wanted to. For smaller clients, we have it this way. Larger ones, we have more hard drives to back up. And then, of course, the chainless. And then what our engineers really liked was the ability to bring in the BDR server and not interrupt the staff. We could bring it in during the day, hook it all up, put it in their server room, hook it all up, connect the server to it, no reboots, no nothing, and then they're all up and going. So so far we've been really pleased with that.
Right. Yeah, and how many different BDR solutions did you try out or look into before you finally settled on BDR for Replimit?
Well, we first started off with Zenith, and that's the first one. We were all like, okay, this is it. the sales guys over there were a whole lot better than their tech support, and so that did not turn out to be a good one for us, just because of working with their support team. Then we went with another company that was, and their name is slipping my mind, but they were based out of the Seattle area, and they use Shadow Protect. We also used Datto, and at that time they were using Shadow Protect, and then after hearing everybody using Shadow Protect, we just went straight with Shadow Protect, and then we went with eFolder, and then made the decision to late last year to stop Shadow Protect and start replacing everybody with Replicate. And the thing with Replicate also is when you're looking at the cost, I mean, 2 terabytes of backup space, and then with us, it's, if we have 20 clients, 10 clients on, that's 20 terabytes to share between us. So it's a pool. So if one client's only using 500 gigs and another one's using 4 gigs, 4 terabytes, sorry, 500 gigs and 4 terabytes, we're, once we're in that pool, we're good. And then if we go over the amount, we just buy another server for the price. So the pricing is really helping us out as well, because it's insanely competitive. It broke our pricing models because the pricing was so cheap.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point actually that I didn't mention, but yeah, we actually pool all of our storage at compartment level, and we let you allocate it however you wish. So yeah, if you have one client with a ton of data and one with comparatively less, you can just distribute the data or the cloud storage among those 2 clients or however many you have to make sure that everybody is fully covered. Now, what kind of pricing model have you adopted with BDR and your other managed services? I mean, do you bundle everything into one package? Do you do it separately? And what kind of margins would you say you enjoy on Replicate?
So we kind of do both. At first, we were when we're going out to new clients or prospects, we were bundling it all in together and saying, "Here's the price." And I think I was not doing a good enough job explaining it to the prospects because our prices were higher. We were trying to do that Gary Peak, chocolate cake thing. Everything's included. So, because most of our other competitors were not including it and having it separate. So then we broke it out and having it separate. But where we try to make the distinction with us is we actually include the backup server. So we have the server that we put on site for them. So the BDR, what becomes, we call it the backup server. It's the BDR. We include that into our monthly pricing, and even then, we are coming at way below what the competitors are doing. I think we're doing, was it 3 years ago we were at just under $1 per gigabyte that we're selling our off, and what we're doing is, and that was only off-site backups, $1 per gigabyte, and with Replicate it dropped us way down, and so we're now making just crazy markups, and we're doing it at 25 cents per gigabyte. And then what we do is we sell it basically 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, 4, and so on. And that includes, the EDR device, and then we also do a monthly, which is usually part of our managed services anyway, but we do our test backups, test restores, and then we spin it up into the cloud once a year for a test.
Got it.
And
so that's interesting.
Every 6 months.
That's interesting. So is the hardware, do you give it to the clients or do you own it on your own?
We own it. And
okay.
so we bring it out and then we own it. we're trying
And
to do as
typically,
much as we can to take away the barriers for them to moving forward with it.
right. And then typically, how often do you upgrade the BDR hardware, or is it kind of too soon to tell?
Too soon to tell, but we plan on
Uh-huh.
doing it every 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a pretty standard thing industry-wide.
Yeah.
Cool. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we have some one of our partners, started where like a kind of a leasing company, and we have the BDRs basically paid off in a year, and then of course we keep the price there. So the next 2 years, it's just added revenue.
Right. Yeah, kind of like the cell phone model, where
Yeah,
you end up paying
exactly.
a lot more for your phone than your carrier does.
Right.
Cool. So let's see. Let's look at the question log here. I've got a few comments here from Mark, who's
Okay.
saying we're taking clients away because of poor service by our competition. Most recently, a large New York City law firm. Another way to assure clients is to provide fast support and ticketing. Yeah, we totally agree with that, Mark. That the key to being a really successful MSP. I mean, on the one hand, you can invest as much as you want to in the right hardware and software and services, but really, it's all about, are you providing proper support to your clients, and do the services and solutions that you adopt, do they integrate nicely with your service and support workflow? So that's a really important thing to note. So thanks for adding that.
What we found out with a lot of the decision makers for our clients is they, they understand what we're telling them, and then what we do is we have this proof of, the monthly report that we send out to them saying, okay, this is what we backed up, this is what the server looks like, here's our restores, and they just like to know that they're getting value for what they're paying for, and and hopefully they never have a disaster where the server goes down and then we have to go to a BDR, but they just want to know that it's there and it's working, and that they can not have to lose sleep over that. They don't have to worry about it. They just outsource all that worry to us.
Right. Cool. Yeah, Mark notes that your client attrition rate is under 1/4 of 1% annually. That's a pretty darn good attrition rate. Cool. So it looks like there aren't any more questions, but I want to thank you, Farrell, so much for providing your insight and your knowledge and your case studies for everyone here. We really appreciate your time and for telling us all about why moving your clients away from tape backups was really instrumental to improving your managed services practice.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everyone for attending. I'll let you off a little early today so you can go enjoy your lunch or get some work done. But this is Neeraj Puriwal signing off from San Francisco, California, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you again. Talk to you later.